Most people hear inflation is about 3% per year, and they immediately assume something that sounds logical, but isn't actually true. They assume that once you retire, your spending will go up 3% every single year. But inflation is not just a number, it's an experience. And that's the part most people miss. Two retirees, both spending $100,000 per year, can experience inflation very differently. And over 15 years, the gap can grow into tens of thousands of dollars. My name is John, and this is John Explains Finance. And today, I want to show you why headline inflation often overstates what homeowners actually experience, and why that matters more than most retirement models admit.
Let's look at something simple. Two retirees, both living on $100,000 per year. On paper, identical. Same income, same headline inflation, same starting expenses. But their cost structures are different. Retiree A, home paid off, car paid off, no consumer debt. They still pay property taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, but no mortgage, no car loan. Retiree B, still paying rent or mortgage, still has a car payment, otherwise similar lifestyle. Same income, same starting spending, but this is where inflation starts separating them.
Now let's shift. What inflation actually measures? When we talk about inflation, we usually mean CPI, Consumer Price Index. Here's what most people don't realize. Housing makes up about 1/3 of CPI. And housing inflation is driven mostly by rent increases and owner's equivalent rent. That's basically an estimate of what homeowners would pay to rent their own house. But if your home is paid off, you are not writing a bigger check every year. CPI assumes housing resets, but paid-off homeowners don't live that way.
Now let's look at real numbers. Let's assume headline inflation averages 3% per year. If everything inflated at that rate, your $100,000 spending would grow like this. 5 years, about $116,000. 10 years, about $134,000. 15 years, about $156,000. That's what most people anchor to. Now, let's go back to retiree A. No mortgage, no car payment. Their experienced inflation historically trends closer to about 2.3% to 2.7%. Let's call it 2.5%. Now, run the same $100,000 forward. 5 years, about $113,000. 10 years, about $128,000. 15 years, about $145,000. That's an $11,000 difference per year by year 15. Same economy, same inflation headline, different lived experience.
Now here's another layer most people miss. Spending tends to decline with age, not drastically, but gradually. Research shows that real spending declines around 1% per year for many retirees, especially homeowners with stable housing costs. It's not forced cuts. Life just slows down. Less travel, less dining, less discretionary spending. So now let's layer that in. If inflation exposure is 2.5% and real spending declines by 1%, nominal growths might look closer to 1.5%. Now your $100,000 looks like this. 5 years is about $108,000. 10 years is about $116,000. 15 years is about $125,000. Compare that to $156,000 under headline CPI assumptions. That's over $30,000 per year difference by year 15. Same starting lifestyle, very different retirement path.
Now let's shift. This is mostly a homeowner story. Renters experience inflation differently. Rent resets annually, and it tends to absorb spending flexibility. That's why renter spending tends to stay flat rather than gently decline. Owning doesn't guarantee lower costs, but it often guarantees lower volatility, and that matters in retirement. Now let's connect this to Social Security. Social Security gets cost of living adjustments based on headline inflation, not your personal situation. If your biggest inflation-sensitive expense, housing, is already gone, your COLA goes further. For renters, it might barely keep up. For paid-off homeowners, it often stretches further. That's one reason many retirees don't run out of money, even when simple models suggest they might.
Now let's talk about what really moves the needle. Not all expenses are equal. There's a hierarchy in retirement. Number 1, paid-off housing. That removes the largest inflation-sensitive expense in your life. Number 2, debt-free transportation. No lease resets, no auto loan payments. Number 3, pre-funding healthcare. It doesn't lower inflation, but it reduces volatility. Number 4, eliminating required debt payments. Flexibility matters more than people think. Number 5, capped or prepaid services. Helpful, but not game-changing. Housing and transportation are the heavy hitters.
Now let's shift. Renting versus owning. This is not a statement that owning is always better. Renting can be cheaper in today's market. This conversation is about inflation risk. Renting trades maintenance risk for reset risk. Owning trades flexibility for control. In retirement, reset risk matters more because fixed income changes the equation.
Final thought. Inflation isn't just about prices rising. It's about how much of your spending is mandatory, how often it resets, how much control you actually have. A paid-off home and a paid-off car aren't just expenses eliminated. They're inflation hedges you already own. And once you remove the largest reoccurring inflation-sensitive expenses, retirement doesn't just look different on paper, it feels different in real life. So when you think about inflation in retirement, don't just ask, what's CPI? Ask, how much of my spending resets every year? Because inflation isn't experienced equally. It depends on your structure. If this helped you think about retirement differently, hit subscribe. I'm John, and this is John Explains Finance. I'll see you next video.